Today I'm going to try and repair this Tortoise point motor to use on my N-scale model railway. How hard can that be? So this is the switch machine in question, point motor as we call them in this country. These are made in America where they call point switches. So this is a switch machine. It's made by Circuitron Tortoise. They're generally very good, also I'm told. But I think I might have managed to break this one. The mistake I made, I think, was pushing too hard when I put a screw into here. There's a tiny hole where you put the linkage that goes up through the fulcrum to your point, to the tie bar of the point, and you then put a screw there just to hold the piece of wire into that tiny hole. What I learned is if you don't use the right screwdriver, you have to push very hard in order to turn the screw. If you get the right sort of screwdriver, which is a very small Phillips head, I'm not a posi drive, I think it's a Phillips, then you don't have to push too hard at all in order to get a good amount of torque on the screw. But I was using the wrong screwdriver, and as I pushed hard, I heard a little crack. These do come with a warranty. You can send them back to the factory along with $5 for return postage, and they'll either repair or replace them. I think they take the view that it's a reasonably indestructible item and shouldn't fail. I think it's a 9-year warranty. Obviously there's a sticker here to prevent you from taking it to bits. I don't really think it's not worth my while. By the time I've posted it to America and then given them $5, I might as well have just bought a new one. I think it cost me $5 to get it there, £5 to get it there, £5 to get it back. You can buy one for 16 quid. So I think I'd rather just take it to bits and see if I can fix it myself. So I will just prise up the corners. I think I could probably do this and put them back and still have the warranty in place. This might work. I think it's all about having the right tool, isn't it? There we go, that fits nicely. So another tip I've learned about getting this screw in here onto the actuator is it's a good idea to put the screw in before you start trying to fit it. We'll see when you put the screw in for the first time, it cuts the thread into the plastic, and it's just easier to do it when you can hold it in your hand rather than trying to do it underneath the baseboard when you're on your back and all the rest of it. I'll give you another tip I've learned on these, and that's to drill extra holes here in the connector board. Sometimes you'll want to attach more than one wire to one of these tabs along here, and if you drill an extra hole, you can stick an extra wire through, and that helps keep the wiring and your soldering a lot tidier. Okay, never done this before, so I'm keen to find out what's inside. I expect it's all going to come to bits when I do this. Oh, there's another screw in the middle. Let's seem a bit mean. There we go. There's another screw in the middle. Oh, and it comes straight out. That's nice. Gosh, look at this. So there's a whole series of gears. I think it's probably what you'd expect. Obviously this motor turns, it has a stall mechanism, I understand. I don't really see how pushing too hard on there can do too much damage. I did hear a bit of a crack as I pushed. I wonder, there is a little plastic dibbly bit sticking out there. And there's what looks like where a little plastic dibbly bit might have snapped off on the other side. So that might be how I've broken it. So the question is, can I find the plastic dibbly bit inside the case? Take that also out. There we go. I'll tell you what, it'd certainly be easier to drill holes in these if you take the board out. It's a little bit tricky drilling extra holes in. So I'm looking for a little black piece of plastic. I can't see it. Maybe it's all fine. So this is extremely well built. And it feels bulletproof. It feels completely bulletproof. So having seen what's inside, I'm a lot more impressed. Seems that, I mean, there are no electronic components on this. It's just simply a switch. Comes about by moving these wipers across this board. And it's very simple. There doesn't really seem to be anything much that can go wrong with it. So I can see when you push on this, the only thing holding it, pushing against you, is these copper these brass connectors. So I can see how when you push against it, how you might find yourself in a place where you've broken it. That does all seem to be out together nicely. I can't see why that should be broken. Because I uninstalled this from the layout because it didn't seem to be travelling the whole way. And to be honest, I didn't want to have one that didn't quite work installed on the layout. So I thought I'd just take it off and deal with it later. But that does seem to be fine. So I think I'll just put it back together. Maybe taking it to bits and giving it a bit of a shake will have persuaded it that it's going to work after all. I think that's what I was hoping, to be honest. Now I think I can test it by just attaching power supply to it. Well, if you're like me and you like taking things to bits, you'd love this. I think I'm more confident with this now. It seems happy to go all the way from one side to the other. I wouldn't mind putting this back into use. Certainly not broken. I don't think it needs to be sent back for repair. I think it's probably the case that running it off this is giving it a bit more juice than it would get run off the accessory decoder, and it might be a little bit less power. One of these is slightly struggling to turn all the way, but I'm quite happy with this, I think, and I'll give it another go. If I try and install it again and it works on actual point, then I think I'll give it a reprieve and put it back into use. Okay, so I wanted to get to grips with why it was that when I powered up this Tortoise point motor using the power supply, it moves across very vigorously. But when I'd previously tried using the accessory decoder, it stalled part way across. And it occurred to me that maybe what the problem was is there's a difference in voltage. So using my meter here, I'm just going to test what the voltage is on the output from the supply and then on the output from the accessory decoder. I'm set to volts DC here. And if I set it on full in one direction, and let's see if you can read that, that's giving me 16 volts. And I'll see, in the other direction, 16 volts on full. So if I now connect up the output of the accessory decoder, and I've connected a couple of wires here to this unused output, which is number 9. So if I just connect that up, if we have a look, now at the moment that's reading 89 millivolts. Let me throw that accessory. So I've got here, you can see that switch number 9. If I change it, and that reading has now gone to 7.5 volts for a little while and then back to not very much. So there's definitely less voltage available from the accessory decoder. I don't know if maybe it's not enough, but it seems to work for the other switch machines, so I'll try connecting up this switch machine again and see if it's going to work now or not. So here I've connected my crocodile clips from the output directly to the point motor, so I should now be able to drive the point motor. It's not connected to a point, obviously, but let's just see if it moves. And that's okay in one direction and okay across. So I think it's fair to say that point motor is now working. It goes a little bit slower with the lower voltage, but I suspect that just taking it apart and putting it back together seems to have made it run a little bit better. So I'm a bit more confident now about using that one. Well, I'm a lot more comfortable with using Tortoise point motors now I've taken one apart. I can see they're actually really robustly built, and if ever one did stop working, I wouldn't hesitate to take the lid off and try and fix it. There don't seem to be that many parts that can go wrong. So I've made a lot of progress now building my layout. If you're new to my channel, go and have a look at some of the other videos. where I go over the design and the construction process. Hopefully you'll join me next time, but I'm going to start trying to join the two boards of my layout together and run track across those joints.